Our discussion this afternoon is on critical writing strategies, cause and effect, process analysis, exemplification, and structuring paragraphs for logical flow. And this topic allows the writer or the student to further strengthen his writing style. In every effective writing, we need to avoid committing mistakes that lead to misinterpretation. These mistakes could be subtle. That's why we need to be critical. In each and every sentences that we write, we need to be circumvent. How do the readers being helped to follow through your reasoning from start to finish? I guess that's your primary lesson on logical organization, ushering the readers to think from simple to complex or from general to specific. This is the phenomenon of cause and effect. There should be a source or an action that has its consequences, similar to narratives or stories. A conflict arises because of the decision making of the character. Evil happens because of the root cause of evil. An example of cause effect analysis or cause effect relationship would be the following. Deforestation leads to biodiversity loss, erosion, and climate change. But actually, this is not as simple as that. We like to say that the cause and effect is linear, but in the actual world, there is no linearity in cause and effect. Climate change can be caused not only by greenhouse gases, but a combination of factors like bad practices or the use of harmful chemical substances could also lead to deforestation. A student fails in class could mean he did not study, but it's more than that. A student can fail in class because of multifactorial elements. Several factors interact and influence each other. But we can assume the others in the list of causes could be personal factors, environmental factors, instructional factors, or even systemic factors. For personal factors, maybe the student is demotivated. For environmental factors, it could be the noisy environment of the home environment prevented the student to really concentrate on what he is studying. Or instructional factors, the instruction is not that clear, or maybe there are no examples given, or the examples given are too advanced to follow. In systemic factors, it could be about the inadequacy of the educational system, or maybe the program, the syllabus has something wrong in it. If we refer to climate change, on the other hand, it could be caused by industrialization, it could be caused by deforestation, or even by agriculture itself, because agriculture can help release methane, which is a harmful greenhouse gas. Or the very core of the community, which is consumption. Our consumption habits can also increase the element of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. So that's what I call as multifactorial. That even climate change itself is a host of several effects like melting ice caps, rising sea levels, and extreme weather conditions. Let us deal with this example. One, a student failure in class is rarely caused by a single factor like laziness or lack of intelligence. Often it results from a combination of issues that build over time. Poor time management may lead to incomplete assignments, while unclear lessons or a fast-paced curriculum can discourage engagement. Well, obviously the paragraph is with cause and effect and recognizes multiple causes, avoiding oversimplification of the cause for failure. It emphasizes interacting elements like poor time management, unclear lessons, family responsibilities. So each cause in every sentence is paired with a specific effect. And the paragraph progresses from general examples to specific examples. And the final sentence synthesizes all of these causes into a broader effect, like overlapping academic, emotional, and environmental pressures. Example 2, the occurrence of climate change. Climate change cannot be traced to one simple cause, such as pollution alone. It arises from the complex interaction of human activity and natural processes. Industrialization, transportation, deforestation increase greenhouse gases, while global consumption patterns intensify energy demand, and so on and so forth. So this is a system of causes from industrialization, transportation, to overconsumption. The words that signal causes are in the second sentence. It arises. Another that signals cause is these elements reinforces each other. Let's go to process analysis. As mentioned here, it explains how something works or unfolds by stages, either chronologically or sequentially. When we think of chronological order, we are thinking actually of timeline, horizontal timeline from starting point to the end point. And this is defined by milestones or time sequence. Waking up late, then getting ready, riding bike. These are sequential events that happen in just a day. Process gives you the steps that are not necessarily interpreted as chronological, but systematic. Systematic, like the first phenomenon or step should be followed so that the second step would be completed, and third step would be followed again after the second step is completed. So it's more on getting you towards the end by making sure that all of these details are being followed. Let me give you an example of process. We call it process analysis because the writing would also involve analyzing which one comes first and which one comes second and which comes next. In this example, we're talking about watering plants. First, water the plants regularly but avoid overwatering. This is important because too much water can drown the roots and prevent oxygen from reaching them. Next, place the plants near a window where they can get enough sunlight. The topic is obviously how to take care of plants properly with the intention of informing, making the readers understand the correct procedure of keeping plants healthy. Okay, the passage follows logical order of actions. Notice that each step is accompanied by explanation of why it matters. Now, this is important in process analysis. This is showing that the writer is doing and knows his job well. He does not just list down the actions, but he also analyzes the process by linking those actions or causes to outcomes or results or effects. In this example, we are again being shown the order of event in time from waking up to preparing tea and watching the sunrise. The signal words of the next sequence is after. And in some cases, there are related terms for after to provide a cue that something is coming up. Sometimes we don't think linearly. That is true. In dealing with a topic, when you're given a topic, sometimes you jump off to brainstorming automatically. You don't sequence your thought because it's more convenient. This is the comparison between receiving the idea simultaneously. I'm referring to the central idea, the illustration to the right, central idea, and then simultaneously idea A, B, C, D occur. But in sequential process, your mind is systematically proceeding from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, never missing or taking a gap, okay, from the necessary steps. So if you train your mind to think sequentially, I think you will be sharper and you will communicate clearer. This is a comparison again of sequential thinking versus cluster thinking, which I illustrated just a while ago. It is a sort of cluster thinking if you are brainstorming, because when you think of an idea, it would trickle down or cascade to related ideas in that cluster and jump off to another idea again without relating to two ideas at all. In sequence thinking, belief 1 is expounded, given instances, and then being linked to the next belief. Belief 2, belief 3, belief 4, and it would lead towards a conclusion, highly structured way of thinking. In exemplification, we would like to strengthen our arguments by grounding the arguments to very concrete cases or case studies. It says here it clarifies abstract concepts using examples, hence the term exemplification. I'd like to give you this example. However, I'd like you to note that there is an insufficient exemplification. There's an attempt, but insufficiently achieved. Over the past 3 years, this administration has intensified our efforts to strengthen our educational system, enhancing early childhood care and development, prioritizing foundational skills such as reading and literacy, and ensuring that every learner has a safe and conducive environment for growth. All you hear in this speech by President Bongbong Marcos are themes, but each theme has not been given a concrete example or policy or project. There is no specific terms that relate to the intervention. Here's an example, now adding a sufficient exemplification. Technology affects society by changing how people communicate. For instance, the rise of smartphones and social media has made it easier to connect instantly, but has also reduced the face-to-face interaction. Many now prefer texting over conversations, which alter social behavior and relationship. Now, this paragraph starts with an agent technology that affects, right, a society or shapes a society. Technology is the culprit that, that gives the impact. It's the action that gives the result. Society, I mean, is affected by the instrumental function of changing how people communicate, and it is introduced by our word by. The structure is the by predicate refers to the process called effect, right? So technology is the cause, and then changing how people communicate is the effect. Now, effect as a process is enacted as being or giving reshaping to society. And the process now changes how the people communicate. Then comes the exemplification introduced by for instance. The example provides contrast, making comms or communication fast, but again, made face-to-face or in-person very scarce, which lead to negative social effects. The last sentence provides deeper exemplification by showing a behavioral shift. In this example, art influences emotion by visually expressing human experiences. For example, that's the trigger word for exemplification. Van Gogh's Starry Night uses swirling brushstrokes and vibrant blues to evoke feelings of wonder, etc. It has again an instrumental function introduced by and then followed by the mode, visually expressing and followed by the subject, being represented by human experiences. And then comes the signal word for exemplification. That's, for example, such and such. Okay. Lastly, let me discuss structuring for logical flow. It says here that we rely on topic sentences, transitions, and progression of ideas. In Aristotelian logic, the passage can begin with an introduction, proceeding towards the middle, and concluding as the end, or concluding towards the end. But sometimes modern writing needs more than that to adapt to the needs of the reader. It says here that the mechanics is reader-based, or prose rather, and the structuring will be affected by how reader would want more conversational type of writing. An example of other style of logical flow are those conventional types that rely on the backbone, conventional adapted style, or yes, it's backbone of a particular research genre. If the humanities does not use IMRAD, it uses more discursive. So ordinarily, again, in Aristotelian, we have the opening, and then we have the time, or the area in our paragraph that we are developing, which is the middle, and then there's an end, concluding. But sometimes these are not followed, because again, in humanistic essays, we picture out a more discursive structure, allowing arguments to develop thematically, with emphasis on interpreting, in arguing, and critical engagement. Remember that structure is just a tool, but it's not an inflexible rule or a consistent rule to follow. Okay, we should be mindful of our purpose in writing. Here's an example of logical flow. Recycling often sparks debate about its real impact on environmental sustainability. While some argue that recycling conserves energy, critics note that collection and process require significant resources. On the other hand, community-driven recycling programs show measurable. So the flow is smoother, and it's being interrupted momentarily by a shift to another discursive tone. It's transition to a contrast of character or quality established earlier. Here's an even smoother paragraph development, which this is not really structured in a scientific journal way, but it's more of a humanist approach. I mean, employing smoother transition and then contrasting perspectives to create more natural and reflective flow. So there's an emphasis on reasoning, balancing different viewpoints rather than following a rigid pros and cons structure. In conclusion, cause, effect, process analysis, exemplification, and logical flow are interconnected, can be combined to constitute an effective style in writing. Together, they ensure clarity, coherence, and adaptability in writing. If we master these, we can strengthen more our academic and professional communication. Thank you very much for listening.